Yeah, g'day, and welcome back to my channel. Now, if you've been watching for a while, you know that I've got a project to make a set of wheel hubs for my surface grinder. And so far, I've been using a trepanning tool to try and clean out all of the excess stock in the back, and it's not going well for me. Now, a trepanning tool is very similar to a parting tool, except it needs like a radius ground on the outside so that it can fit into the curvature of the part you're sort of poking it into. So the first one was ground out of high-speed steel. Wow, I guess I'd forgotten just how slow you have to run high-speed steel into tool steel. As this diameter is quite large, you end up with such an incredibly slow feed rate and RPM that it took forever, and I was too impatient. Right, so how can I make a tool that's going to work faster? I think I'm going to want a carbide cutting edge and then braze it to some rando steel shank. And for the carbide cutting edge, I'll try just sticking on an insert. So I've knocked the coating off the back of the carbide with a diamond wheel. I think I'm using 55% silver brazing filler to glue it together. Hey, does your brazing flux mix to a paste in water? Mine says it should, but mixing it with water just seems to make a bunch of crystals swimming in water, so not sure what's going on there. Once I started grinding this one, that's when the problems started. I kept getting bits of the insert chipping out, and it didn't seem to matter how much more I ground it, it didn't seem to get any better. Ah, bugger, another big chip came off right off the front where I need it. I eventually had to accept that I was flogging a dead horse there and give up on that plan. So I melted that insert off. Well, I went for another dive through my scrap carbide and I found this broken off 4mm end mill. I think what I'll do is just make a little U shape in the end here. Obviously, if I was making more than one of these, I'd set it up and do it on the milling machine. But with just one, it's only a few licks with the file and we're done. So the silver solder's definitely penetrated this side nicely, and most of the front. I'm not entirely sure if it got under this side properly. Guess we'll see in service. But let's mount that and get it dialed in and try it out. Oh man, look at this. I did a wrap it up from this spot and it came out at a diagonal and just clipped the edge and knocked the carbide off my tool. Okay, so I've remade the trepanning tool. This time it's a millimeter narrower as well. Well, I failed to capture it on film. I think I ran this tool a bit too hard and a bit too dry, heated up the carbide too much, and probably melted the silver solder because the carbide fell off again. So that led me to look through my old lathe tools where I found a few of these and decided to try and modify one. But of course, with that big offset, by the time I ground away the bits that I didn't need, I ended up with a very thin neck and it distorted under load. Quite amazingly, this actually finished the job without trashing apart. But lucky, I guess. Since that one mostly worked, I just went to the hardware store and bought up a nice straight one of them. And I've marked out here what I need to chop off it to turn it into the better version of this tool. So let's have at it. Now, since you really don't want to be grinding steel with the diamond grinding wheel, let me see if I can take off most of the steel with an angle grinder. By this stage, I'd sort of decided that a 5mm width was about the optimal for this job. No science behind that, it's just a gut feeling. I also used the cutter grinder just to add the radius on the side of the tool as well. I did that in a set of facets. Oh whoops, I had a friend over and I was showing him the use of my new trepanning tool and tried doing the first plunge cut into the first piece, and it's already bent and I think chipped a bit at the top. I'm really not sure whether I had my feeds and speeds too aggressive or whether it's just the limitation here that I'm trying to plunge too deep for this specific width of tool. If I make the tool narrower, it becomes even weaker and distorts easier. And if I make it thicker, then I exceed the torque of the lathe and it stalls. Yeah, so while I've got really good at grinding trepanning tools, I haven't got really good at grinding functional trepanning tools. So I think it's time for a change in plan. And that plan would be just to mount these parts on the mill and spiral in with an end mill to clean out all that excess material, and then transfer back onto the lathe to do the balance weight dovetail. Now I don't want to crank this down too hard because I don't want to put dents into my nice lathe chuck. This center finder was given to me by Christian in Salzburg, and it turns out to be a really handy tool for this sort of thing. You just sort of have to jump back and forth between jogging in X and jogging in Y, doing small increments until you get the thing centered. Right, well that gives me my 0x and 0y positions. So now I can also touch off the tool. Mail time. Mus from Denmark contacted me because he's seen how good I am at destroying carbide, and I guess he had some carbide that needed to be destroyed. Wow, this is a very, very well packed box. Nice one. Oh, that's heavy. Far out, look at all this. That's incredible. Wow, that is a fantastic selection of cutters with 16s, 12s, lots of 10s, which I use most, 8s, and then some smaller ones, plus lots of, I guess these are either 45-degree chamfer mills or spotting drills. I guess some are spotting and some are chamfer. And then this looks like it's a little thread mill. I'm guessing that's an M6. Brilliant. That's a pretty common size. And what have we got wrapped up in here? Okay, so it's a bunch of those little VGCT or whatever tools. And these are, I think he said, polycrystalline diamonds. So these would be used for extremely fine surface finishes on aluminium and non-ferrous. And it's good because I've got a tool holder that will take them. Thank you very much, Mars. So I bought some screen protectors because a bunch of you pointed out after my last video that this Lexan, which I've replaced in these windows, while being very tough, tends to scratch super easily. So I bought a couple of cheap Gorilla Glass iPad screen covers. Now these aren't going to be perfectly sized, but it really doesn't matter because as long as I keep the main center portion of the screen clear, it doesn't really matter if the corners and edges and stuff get scratched up. There's 2 per box. I got 2 boxes so I can keep some clear vision at the top and on the front. Scratching it already. Sure it won't be the last one. You might be wondering why I'm putting protectors on both the outside and the inside when all of the swarf's going to come from the inside. Lexan really is extremely soft, and even just the dust and stuff in the air, when it settles on it and you rub it off, is going to cause scratching and hazing pretty quickly. So figure this way I can at least keep some of it nice and clear. Now this top window is probably more here just for getting light in than anything. So from that perspective it really wouldn't matter that much if it became hazed. But hey, I went to the effort of installing it. Let's try and protect it for a while. Now back to the mill. I just did some handwritten G-code to control my toolpaths. I like to do this sort of stuff with subroutines. This makes it much easier for doing test cuts and debugging. Oh, bugger. I'm guessing I didn't crank it down enough, did I? Because it's obviously moved, I lost my center, and, well, yeah. I think I need a vacation. And that means there's probably not going to be a video next week. Thanks a lot for watching.